Germany and US leading the way in crucial period for women's football. Danielle Young cried when she learned her football team was to be disbanded. Told on the day it was announced to the rest of the world, she and her teammates were given 15 minutes to come to terms with the news before a statement was made public. AFC Fylde Women, which plays in the third tier of the women's game in England, had become the first semi-professional or professional team in England to fold as a result of the financial difficulties brought about by the coronavirus pandemic. "We were shocked, upset, sad," Young, then the club's captain, tells CNN Sport. That April statement seemed like an ominous warning and suggested a bleak future for the women's game as men's and women's clubs around the world faced an uncertain future as sport stalled. FIFPRO, the Global Players Union, also that month warned that women's football was faced with an existential threat if the game was not protected. But Young's story has a happier ending. 4 weeks after the initial decision, AFC Fylde reversed course, and next season, whenever that may be, the women's team will continue to play in the National League Northern Premier Division. "A lot has changed," explains Young, who, as part of the restructure, will become joint manager, alongside Kim Turner. "The club is picking up the basic finances, in terms of league fees, training facilities, but there's no funding for expenses. We're trying to do some fundraising, we're looking for sponsorships, and we're hoping we can make up that money elsewhere. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. The backlash at what happened to us, and we're at Tier 3, has been an eye-opener. This game has come on so much in the past 10 years. 12 months ago, France hosted a Women's World Cup which propelled women's football into the sporting mainstream. Beamed around the world, the competition broke viewing figures and dominated news bulletins, transforming the likes of U.S. women's national team stars Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan into household names far beyond their home country. But has the momentum gained during France 2019, when the USWNT swaggered to a record 4th world title, been lost? With its leagues less established and sponsorship and broadcasting deals generally lower than in the men's game, how much will women's football suffer? Uncertainty is not new to women's football, and neither is inequity. It is those most at peril who are always most exposed. And France 2019 was never perfect. Not only did the tournament starkly highlight how women's football was at a different stage of development from country to country, it also brought focus on the differences between the men's and women's tournaments, from the marketing of the two showpiece events to prize money. And in the moments after the final ended in Lyon, there were boos for Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, at the Olympic Stadium, and chants of equal pay in support of the USWNT players' fight for pay equity. That battle is still ongoing. Women's footballers around the globe would have still been battling on numerous fronts even had a pandemic not brought societies to a standstill. As each country's experience of COVID-19 has differed, so too has the response and the speed at which a return to some semblance of normalcy is attempted. It is, after all, at first a public health issue. In the same week as England's Football Association ended the season for its top 2 women's leagues, Germany's Frauen-Bundesliga restarted behind closed doors. It is not that Germany's leagues have not been financially hit by COVID-19. Last month, Kicker magazine reported 13 of the 36 top clubs faced insolvency. But, crucially, 4 of the country's leading clubs, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen, have contributed heavily to a solidarity fund for teams in the men's 3rd division and the Frauen-Bundesliga, which covers the cost of coronavirus testing. Fritz Keller, president of the German Football Association (DFB), said by resuming the season the Frauen-Bundesliga was taking on a pioneering role in international women's football. Amber Barrett and Laura Dickenman were part of the first match of the league's resumption after a 2-month shutdown as their respective teams, FC Köln and Wolfsburg, played behind closed doors at the AOK Stadion on May 29. Both talk of their angst at returning and of how the club's management of their health and well-being eased initial concerns. The resumption of the Frauen-Bundesliga, is going to do huge things for women's football in Germany, but it's also going to do huge things for women's football in general, Barrett tells CNN Sport. It just shows there's an intent there. If we want women's football to be taken seriously, we need to take it seriously. Players have been regularly tested and were gradually reintroduced to contact training. We weren't allowed to touch any of the equipment, everything was sterilized, says Barrett of FC Köln's first 10 days of training while socially distancing.